Hello, I'm Rob Higuerita, and I'm an enterprise support lead at AWS, and I'm based out of Austin, Texas. Welcome to AWS Support 2, where we share best practices and troubleshooting tips from AWS support. Joining me today is Mike Wells and Aiden Beckeroff from AWS support. Can you give us a quick introduction, Mike, and then Aiden?
Hey, I'm Mike Wells, Technical Account Manager based out of Colorado. As a TAM, I get to proactively monitor my customers' AWS environments and assist with proof of concepts and initiatives and address real business outcomes. Also coordinate access to programs and other AWS experts as needed. TAMs are both technically and business focused to ensure that AWS customers get the best value from AWS services. Aiden?
Hey, I'm Aiden Beckeroff. I'm also an enterprise support lead and senior TAM based out of San Jose, California. And I love this topic because storage classes are one of the most immediate paths to savings for AWS customers using S3. So I'm excited to share more about this today.
Great, thanks, Mike and Aiden. So as Aiden and Mike kind of mentioned, today we'll be introducing you to Amazon S3 tiered storage and the surrounding tools. We'll specifically focus on cost optimizations by leveraging these various tiers in your applications. But before we get too far into the details, a quick note to the attendees online. Please feel free to use the chat window down on the right-hand side of the screen to share your thoughts and ask your questions throughout the episode today. We really look forward to interacting with you and hearing from you today, so please take advantage of that. Mike, can you go ahead and walk us through what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, today we're going to be talking about what Amazon Simple Storage Service is. We're going to be trying to understand storage cost and understand what exactly goes into your S3 bill. We're going to talk about Amazon S3 storage classes, and we have a customer case study, and we're also going to go through a demo of S3 Storage Lens. So tens of thousands of data lakes and millions of applications have been built on S3 because of the unmatched availability, durability, scalability, and unique capabilities. Customers look at that data in their data lakes as multi-tenant data. And by that, I mean customers run different applications against the same data in their data lakes. For things like auditing and compliance, running analytics, running prediction models. And what's also really interesting is that customers also use S3 to store a wide variety of data types in their data lake, ranging from Parquet files to customer audio recordings to videos. And depending on the application that's using them, these data sets can have very different access patterns. To give you some examples, S3 stores exabytes of data across millions of drives, trillions of objects around the world, regularly peaks at millions of requests per second. And it can process in a single region over 60 terabits per second in a day. As you know, AWS innovates based on what customers need. And S3 intelligent tiering is something that we'll be talking about today. It's a great example, and it's used all the time for data lakes. We built it specifically for storage that has changing access patterns. It's the first storage class that automatically adjusts pricing based on an object's access pattern in a given month. So you can put any data set that you want into intelligent tiering storage and not have to think about what access patterns you use to access your data. You just get the cost savings automatically for infrequently accessed objects in a given month. We also know that some of the data in the data lake is known as cold data. So we built Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive, which is the lowest cost object storage in the cloud. It's less than 1/10 of a cent per gigabyte per month, or about $1 a terabyte per month. Aiden, can you talk to us about understanding your TCO a little better?
Yeah, totally, Mike. So TCO, total cost of ownership, when we're looking at cloud pricing, it's tempting just to compare the cloud storage cost against the acquisition cost of storage hardware, but that doesn't show you anywhere near the full picture. In traditional on-prem infrastructure, there's several other costs that you don't incur when running in the cloud. So including, for example, the data center space, the power, the cooling, the cost of the building, maintaining the network, the hardware and software maintenance expenses, and the headcount to operate all of this infrastructure just mentioned. So additionally, you typically incur the cost of underutilization. That is, like any storage capacity you've purchased, but aren't using or aren't able to use at that moment, in effect is increasing your per gigabyte cost of data stored. In contrast, services like S3 and Amazon Elastic File Storage, like EFS, you pay for only what you use and when you delete the data. You stop paying for that storage. It's simple as that. And there's no underutilization expenses that you have to deal with there. And finally, when on-premises, you pay for the cost to migrate data from one system to another, which can be substantial, particularly over time as refreshes and keeping up and maintenance is in your wheelhouse. In the cloud, your costs follow your workload usage patterns way more closely. You pay for the data stored, of course, and depending on the service, you may pay for requests made to the service. For example, to get and retrieve data or to move between data tiers and data transfer out. And services like S3 infrequent access, like Amazon EFS infrequent access and S3 Glacier, you pay to retrieve the data. But by shifting this model to pay for just what you use, you can cost optimize your applications. So, and at the bottom here, everybody's usage is going to be different. There's a total cost of ownership analysis calculator right there, and these can show you some common patterns here and how to compare apples to apples. And what we find, we find that the total cost to run an AWS is favorable to running on premises. But yeah, Rob, do we have any questions at this point from the chat?
Hey, Aiden. Yeah, we don't have any questions from the audience right now. So audience, please remember to put your questions in the chat there. But I do have a question, just in general. What can developers do with Amazon S3 that they could not do with on-premise solutions?
Great question, Rob. So first and foremost, having immediate instant global access to your storage, with 11 nines of durability, still is an amazing feat. So, just to think about what the 11 nines means, which we'll cover later when we're comparing some storage classes. If you've ever worked with storage systems, is an insane feat. So, just having that level of global presence, that level of durability, reliability for the data, and all of these, even for example, all the feature sets that you continuously keep seeing added to S3 is mind-blowing. So, for example, like new types of intelligent auto tiering, where it will find the right, if you have cold data, it will find the right class for it. It can put it into archival for you, etc. So I hope that gives you just a taste of it, and we'll definitely be peeling that a little bit further, Rob.
Great. Look forward to hearing some more. So back over to you. Thanks.
So Mike, over to you here.
Yeah. So let's look at the S3 as the best storage to optimize your cost for data throughout its life cycle. Since its introduction in 2006, S3 has constantly innovated on behalf of our customers to make cloud storage more cost-effective and easier to manage. The graph you see here on the left shows the over 80% reduction in S3's S3 standards price since 2006. And again, that is a reduction in price whenever you're storing your data here and prices continue to go down. Let me share a bit about how we think about storage classes. S3 storage classes provide customers different ways to store their data in S3, and they're a reflection of AWS's pricing principles. And these principles are not unique to S3, but are really an AWS-wide concept. In S3, they guide our thinking when it comes to storage classes. No upfront cost, no investment required, allows you to innovate faster. Pay as you go, which is no commitment required. You can scale up and down and just use the amount of storage that you want. And that means that you don't underutilize your storage because you really pay for only what you use. However, the more you use, the less you pay, which is the third principle. For example, in S3 standard storage class, you have automatically integrated volume discounts. And the more storage that you use, the less you pay. And finally, there's the principle that you pay less as AWS grows. And that means that we innovate on behalf of our customers. Over time, we've launched more regions and more availability zones, we've introduced more storage classes, and we've passed those savings on to our customers in price reductions. And on the right, you can see how we've continued to add more storage options over time. Most recently, we launched 2 new storage classes in S3 Intelligent Tiering and S3 Glacier Deep Archive. We launched all these storage classes because customers have told us the use cases with which they want to use and store data in S3, and they're looking for the ideal storage class. And on the right, you can see how we just, as time goes on and on, we add more and more of these classes. Companies are using S3 for every imaginable use case, including data lakes, geospatial imagery, DNA sequencing, autonomous vehicle data, and more. And all of these use cases require active management of large volumes of data. And the reason these companies choose AWS and S3 is because of our ability to innovate. Let's talk about some of the pillars of optimizing storage cost using Amazon S3.
Yeah, Mike, totally. So when it comes to optimizing your costs on S3, we like to think of 4 pillars or steps, really. And today we'll focus primarily on the last 2, like right sizing your storage and monitoring, analyzing, managing your storage. And but just to cover the first 2 here and understand what we're talking about, the first pillar is really defining your application requirements. You know your application best, right? And it's really important to understand the requirements here because all apps are different. Like when you architect your applications, for example, on like static web content, like that means you'll have like random access, you need high availability, you need very high durability, or some data analytics use case, right? That is an entirely different access pattern. So that's like frequent access. Maybe the availability can be lower if you can regenerate some process files, and or some long-term backups, right? If you need like a second region to cross-region replicate your data to, or for compliance, all these use cases we commonly see in S3 for S3 customers, and all of these differences will drive different storage requirements. So nobody knows it better than you do. You talk to your stakeholders, you talk to your customers, and you architect what kind of storage you're looking for. The second pillar, organizing your data, it's also very powerful to organize your data from the beginning if you want to effectively optimize your costs. S3 has some great ways to organize your data on granular levels, and that can allow you to optimize your costs there. And we'll show you how to do that, how to, for example, there's tags and prefixes to help you slice and dice and control access patterns that way. But what I really want to talk about, the last 2 pillars here. So really the third pillar is all about right sizing, right? And when I talk about right sizing, it's really about choosing the right storage classes and configuration, like cross-region replication or same region replication that fits your application requirements. And that can give you the largest impact, I'd say, for after you've already have a workload up and running, continuously analyzing and optimizing. Finally, it's all about monitoring your storage and checking your choices. Analyzing what the best storage class is very important to make sure you're in the best storage class for your workload. And we have lots of tools like CloudWatch Metrics, CloudTrail, S3 Storage Lens, which I'm going to be showing a demo shortly, and S3 storage class analysis, which help you with all of that. Make sure you're on the right track, especially as if any new storage classes are released, you take advantage of those immediately. So important takeaways: first, know your application best. Second, it's a continuous process. So let's dive into that. Rob, any questions from the chat?
Hey, so far, no questions right now from the chat, so I'll let you guys continue on through the material, and hopefully get some coming in here.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Mike.
Great. Over the last 3 years, S3 has launched lots of new storage classes. Whether you have demanding performance needs, data residency requirements, or unknown access patterns, infrequently accessed data, or archival needs, S3 has a storage class that's optimized for your data access, durability, and cost needs. If you know that your data is active and frequently accessed and maybe deleted in a month, S3 Standard is probably the best choice. designed for 99.99% availability, milliseconds latency, and protection against single AZ loss. If you know all your data is less frequently accessed and not deleted within a month, then use S3 standard infrequently accessed to save up to 40% storage costs compared to S3 standard, but with a retrieval fee for accessing the data. For data that's reproducible and less frequently accessed, you can use S3 one zone infrequently accessed, which stores data in a single AZ at 20% lower storage costs than S3 standard infrequently accessed. You can also archive objects using the lifecycle policy from any S3 storage class into Amazon Glacier at a 60% lower storage cost, or to Glacier Deep Archive at the lowest storage cost available, saving you up to 95%. And just recently, we launched 2 new ways to optimize your cost and performance by adding 2 new archive tiers to intelligent tiering. And with S3 on Outpost, which delivers object storage to your on-premise AWS Outpost environment to meet local data processing and data residency needs. Let's talk about right-sizing your storage. And the best way to lower your total storage cost is choosing the right storage class for your workload. S3 has a number of storage classes to choose from, whether you have demanding performance needs, data residency requirement, or unknown access patterns, infrequently accessed data, or archival needs. S3 has a storage class that's optimized for your data access, durability, and cost needs. Aiden, can you talk about these intelligent tiering archive access tiers?
Totally. So S3 Intelligent Archive Access Tiers was launched in late November 2020, and just a bit more color on S3 Intelligent Tiering before I jump into that. We launched S3 Intelligent Tiering. Is designed for customers who wanted to optimize storage costs automatically when data access patterns change for them without performance impact or operational overhead. So this was a huge help to customers that had a really diverse, maybe thousands of buckets that, there wasn't a very defined pattern that they could see. So having that automated assistance was a big help. And what we're talking about in this slide here is the addition of archival access tiers. So it's an opt-in feature that arrived in November 2020, and this has 2 basically classes here. It's archival tiers. So that's Archive and Deep Archive. This is kind of analogous to like Glacier and Glacier Deep Archive, but a difference because it is attached to the S3 Intelligent Tiering. And these new archival tiers offer the same pricing and performance as Glacier and Glacier Deep Archive, but without the tiering fees that you would incur. So customers can opt in to one or both, and both archive tiers. And when activated, S3 Intelligent Tiering will automatically move objects that haven't been accessed for 90 days to the archive access tier, and after 180 days to the deep archive access tier. So that's where customers can save the 95% on storage costs for these rarely accessed objects. And Mike, I know you mentioned it, but I just wanted to reiterate, $1 a terabyte, so $1,000 for a petabyte of storage is really impressive. And these dates, 90 or 180 days, you can edit these dates, for your workloads, to suit your workloads. And this is an opt-in strategy if you didn't want to jump into archival, if you didn't need archival. Really quickly on the difference between, say, Glacier and Glacier Deep Archive. So basically, if you want to access the data today and work on it today, Glacier is a great choice. If you can wait until tomorrow, Glacier Deep Archive is a much better choice, for the lower costs there. And let's bring it over to you, Mike, for some extra color there.
Hopefully 95% savings kind of grabbed your attention to be able to talk about this a little bit further. S3 Glacier Deep Archive is the lowest cost storage option available in the cloud, even lower than you can find on-premise tape. This means that you no longer have to manage tape. A lot of customers tell us that they don't want to maintain magnetic tape libraries or offsite tape storage arrangements. Maintaining tape infrastructure is difficult and time-consuming. Tapes degrade if not properly stored and require multiple copies, frequent validation, and periodic refreshes to maintain data durability. Additionally, it's difficult or impossible to do machine learning and other types of analysis directly on data stored in tape. And these systems often require a lot of human effort to maintain, scale, migrate, all sorts of things. Retrieving data from offsite tape storage can be really expensive and take a long time. And many customers are looking to the cloud to innovate and increase the value of their archives. It's a classic example of undifferentiated heavy lifting. With Deep Archive, customers can repurpose that effort on work that differentiates their business and know that they can easily retrieve exactly the data that they request without needing to deal with multiple requests from an off-site storage facility. S3 Glacier Deep Archive replicates your data across at least 3 availability zones with a single region, giving you unmatched resiliency to single data center issues like power failures. It has the same design for 11 nines of durability that we have in the other S3 storage classes. Deep Archive also provides the same security that you've come to expect from the other S3 storage classes, and like Amazon S3 Glacier, is designed for 99.99% availability and backed by our availability SLA. Unlike tape, Deep Archive allows you to get exactly the objects you requested in 12 to 48 hours, as opposed to having to do it in days or weeks with off-premise tape storage. Deep Archive provides the same performance that you get with Amazon S3 Glacier, and it costs less than 1/10 of 1 cent per gigabyte per month, which translates to about $1 per terabyte per month. Lots of AWS customers collect and store large volumes, often a petabyte or more of important data, but seldom access it. And in some cases, raw data is collected and immediately processed and then stored for years or decades, just in case there's a need for further processing or analysis. S3 Deep Archive is an excellent use of this to be able to solve this problem. We want to start talking more about how to understand and analyze and optimize your S3 storage. Can you jump in there?
Yeah, just going to double check. Rob, do we have any questions at this point?
Hey, Aiden, yeah, we actually do have a question from the audience. From Tame242 has a question about S3 One Zone. Can I have a bucket that has different objects in different storage classes and availability zones with S3?
Yes, you can. There's no problem mixing the storage classes in a bucket. So like intelligent, for example, like infrequently accessed, you can definitely mix storage classes there, and like a lifecycle policy to tier you to, after a certain number of days to a different storage class. So yeah, that's no problem.
All right, thanks, I appreciate it.
Cool. So let's talk about understanding, analyzing, optimizing your storage. These are basically like the last two pillars that I mentioned before. And, when you use S3 to manage large shared data sets, across like tens to hundreds of accounts and buckets in multiple regions, in multiple storage tiers, just like this we were just asked, it becomes more and more important to be able to access complete and up-to-date information about your storage in order to make the best decisions, right? Effectively managing your S3 data is really a major key to optimizing cost. And this is an area we've invested significantly because we have a lot of customers that are operating at petabyte and even exabyte scale with tens, hundreds, thousands of AWS accounts in their organizations. And by using S3 analytics, storage class analyses, this is a great tool to get you going, to see per bucket, to see exactly what's going on there with which storage class distribution you have, double check you're on the right storage class, double check your access patterns, and moving on, it'll help you determine what the best storage class is, basically to recommend or to affirm your thoughts about your what you believe the best storage class is for your bucket. We've also developed capabilities like S3 inventory, and you can use that to audit and report on replication, encryption status, and that this can be critical for business compliance or regulatory needs. S3 inventory can be, you can get a list of all of your objects and the corresponding metadata on a daily or weekly basis for a bucket or prefix. And this can, this can be queried by a tool of your choice. I prefer like Amazon Athena to query this right off of S3 itself. And the newest feature is S3 Storage Lens, which we're going to demonstrate, which provides centralized organization-wide visibility and into your S3 usage. So it's, this as well as recommendations. And this is really cool to show you like a consolidated view out of all of your metrics and your S3 metrics for you. So each of these can, in conjunction, can be used to help you get really smart about right-sizing your applications and optimizing. Yeah. So over to you, Mike, on more further optimizations.
Yeah. So let's talk about cost savings and how they improve over time through optimizations. CIOs tell us that cost is not the key factor in their decision, is the key factor to their decision to move to the cloud. Agility and innovation are usually at the center of their motivation. However, being at least cost neutral is table stakes before considering any migration to the cloud. We typically see at least 20% savings with just a lift and shift, as you can see here. And over the first few months, customers continue to optimize their EC2 instances and S3 storage classes for an additional 20 to 30% savings. And by adopting higher level services, customers further optimize, and many see 60% or more savings. And this is an important point to consider. The benefits of cloud services and the opportunities to optimize operations, agility, and economics continue as you scale your operations in the cloud, and continuous innovation, new features, and new services become a catalog from which to choose rather than new projects you need to build, and their benefits are cumulative. Storage cost optimization enhances agility and an organization's ability to respond to disruption. And optimizing your costs on AWS can allow you to do more for less. Cost optimization is more than just cost savings, and enables your organization to be more agile and to be able to meet customer needs. And you can use the savings to invest back into your organization to innovate faster. I'm going to talk about a case study about a company named Teespring. And Teespring is an online platform that lets creators turn unique ideas into custom merchandise, such as T-shirts, mugs, phone cases that their fans can buy. The challenge that Teespring was facing is they looked to reduce their storage cost and technical debt as the business grew. It gained over 1 petabyte of user-generated content that was not stored in the proper tier. Millions of people bring their designs and ideas to Teespring, and the company has to store data for these users and all the products that they create. For a creator who only offers a couple of products, there might be just a handful of files, but for a more prolific user with multiple products and color choices, there can be tens of thousands of high-resolution images. Over time, this resulted in accumulating billions of image files that had to be accessible on demand to Teespring's manufacturing network. And what we did here to solve this problem is we implemented Amazon S3 intelligent tiering and batch operations to move billions of objects to lower storage tiers. As Teespring experienced rapid business growth, the company's data also grew exponentially to a petabyte and continued to increase because Teespring's engineers were focused on scaling up the service to handle demand. The data stored in S3 wasn't always well organized. S3 intelligent tiering offered an easy path to gain significant savings. Teespring simply moved the entire buckets into S3 intelligent tiering, which automatically transitions objects between different storage tiers on how often those objects are accessed. However, it was the launch of S3 batch operations that gave Teespring the ability to regain full control of legacy data in S3. Their objects in S3 didn't have enough metadata associated with them to figure out what storage classes they should be in or whether they were needed at all. They needed a way to apply their own business rules to S3 objects at massive scale. The company created a number of rules based on their creator and buyer behavior to define the appropriate storage class for objects. For example, if a product wasn't available for purchase for years, they moved that asset to a lower cost storage class. The company then pulled information from its Amazon Redshift data warehouse to generate S3 batch operation manifest files, which specified exactly which objects could be moved to Amazon S3 Glacier with no impact to the business. Mm-hmm. The benefits that they had from this move were they saved 30% in storage costs, and they had the ability to be able to manage terabytes of unstructured data in S3 buckets by processing billions of files to discern which could be moved to cheaper storage. And tasks that usually took 1 to 2 hours now take 5 minutes. We wanted to have time for a few questions and to be able to jump into a demo. I think we had a question from the chat, right, Rob?
Hi, yes, Mike, thanks. We do have a question from Taylor888. When would you choose a manual lifecycle configuration compared to intelligent tiering?
Sure, I could grab this. So when you want firm dates on your, you immediately want it to transition to Glacier at, regardless of prior access, having that firm date in a lifecycle policy is one reason why you would choose, creating that lifecycle policy directly as opposed to using intelligent auto tiering. The second major reason is the size of the objects. If you are below 128 kilobytes, I would say a good rule of thumb is try and be around 100 kilobytes average, as close as you can get, or larger than 128 kilobytes, because it won't. Intelligent access tiering won't move objects below 128 kilobytes into infrequent access, the less access storage. So if there's also a monitoring cost, a very, very tiny monitoring cost with intelligent tiering. And if you already know the perfect use case, you know exactly what your applications will be doing on which date, then a lifecycle policy can also be slightly more cost efficient there. But you're trading off the risk of and perhaps the architecting of knowing exactly what your objects will be doing. So it's definitely a trade-off, and there's cases for both. But for a vast number of customers, just taking that analysis, doing that analysis for them, like was the object even accessed in the prior 90 days, yes or no, for example, and moving it back to the different archival tiers, that is helpful. So I hope that helps. There are kind of three reasons there why you can choose between manual lifecycle and intelligent tiering. Mm-hmm.
Great, thanks, I appreciate it. Over to you all for, I guess, the demo next.
Yeah, let's jump into it. So perfect. We're in the console here. Let's jump into S3, and first thing you'll see, is this might be new for you. The actual account snapshot we're seeing here, as of this day, and this is generated through S3 Storage Lens dashboards. And every AWS account now comes with a free default account dashboard, which is what we're seeing here, and it's telling you like my total storage, my object count, and my average object size. And this is across all of my S3 buckets. What we're seeing here, I've jumped in. Everybody gets a free default account, default dashboard, and immediately you're able to see some large trends here. My total objects, my total storage, how many active buckets I have out of total. I have 50 buckets, and I have only 36 active. So I have some cold buckets there. If I jump in and go ahead and look at my storage classes, you can see I'm split on 3 storage classes here: one zone infrequent access, standard, and standard infrequent access. So I am already doing some sort of utilizing tiers here, some storage classes. I also have deeper bubble analyses for like 3 dimensions if I want to slice and dice. And lastly, I have 14. I have metrics and analyses that I could do as well that are included for free. So for example, like percent replicated. I have a lot of those metrics. I'm going to leave a link in the chat for you to drill into those. But those are some clear metrics that you're given for free. There's also advanced dashboards, which there's a fee associated with if you're looking for more a longer retention period or more metrics, and lastly, recommendations for all your S3 buckets. And I just enabled it for this account, so I'm not seeing recommendations immediately, but that should generate on the right here. Also, you see prefix has shown up on the top here. So prefix allows you to also slice and dice by your prefixes, your object key name prefixes, and also the longer date range for 15 months here, as opposed to 14 days. This is a daily snapshot of all of my S3 usage here, my total storage, for example, this metric. And back to the bubble analyses, this can be really helpful, for example, at looking at like, what cold buckets do I have? Who last accessed? These are like API get requests, put requests. If I have 0 get or put, access retrievals, it's telling me that this very well may be a cold bucket. So that tells me which buckets I can focus on, as really prime targets for looking at lifecycle policies, or even can I delete this bucket or can I archive this bucket? So those are the major questions you want to get to. This is all in one account right now, but another major feature is the AWS organizations integration. So I can say, ask other business units that are in my child linked accounts, how are they doing for their encrypted object status or, multi-part upload? Like, do they have, for example, any of these metrics here? There's 30 metrics and growing. Are any of these important to me in my business case? Really? Some of these can be more or less have a better impact to cost efficiency. And per bucket, I would really start by focusing on my largest buckets that are giving me the most impact, say my top 10 buckets, for example, over the last 14 days. So this first bucket in purple, I would start looking there, for example. That's going to have the largest impact. And that's just a great place. Just having this analyses over all of your buckets and all of your accounts alone is already a very big win for looking at where the impact is, and am I using different storage classes? And this adds a lot of intelligence to going about this. Previously, it was all on a per bucket basis. You'd have to dig in to the bucket of interest and then scroll down to the storage class analyses. And this is only per bucket. So once I've identified my biggest buckets and their usage, I would look at the recommendations given by storage class analyses. For example, we're seeing very, very cold usage here. Objects were created over 730 days ago. We're seeing in the purple, very, very low rate of retrieval. So this is a prime candidate for looking at archival. Why is this all of it apparently is in the storage class, frequently accessed data, but it's clearly not the case. So this is a prime target to look at, using a lifecycle policy or enabling the intelligent auto tiering to have this moved into an archival tier. This, I believe, was a CloudTrail bucket, and I'm not querying my CloudTrail every day, but I have other alerts set up off of it. But so I'm not going to delete this bucket. Basically, I would not delete my CloudTrail bucket. But this may be a great, as it's recommending, transition to a infrequent access storage class. So because the objects haven't been accessed within 60 days. So that was storage class analyses per bucket. Let's jump back into storage lens to take a look at some of the more advanced metrics we're seeing from this. This is a snapshot for the day. You're seeing, just to call out, an average size of 7.3 kilobytes per object. That is really small. That's telling me this is like computer logs, S3 access logs, other computer generated logs. So doing like a blanket statement of putting everything in infrequent access doesn't make sense given how tiny these objects are. I'm also seeing some other major trends below in the metrics, like am I using the current version? A rule of thumb is if you have over 10% of non-current version bytes, you have too many. Most likely, you have too many old version of their bytes. You look at putting a life cycle to delete them. Incomplete MPU multi-part uploads, that can also be a source of wastage if you want to delete that, but I had 0% there. And lastly, just a large call out to really focusing on the performance chart. For example, durability is tied across the storage tiers at 11 nines, so that's great. But how about the availability and the SLAs there? Do I want my data to be in 3 availability zones, or is it, if it's easily reproducible, is one zone acceptable for me? How about the minimum capacity charge per object? I was mentioning the tiny objects at 7 kilobytes versus 128 kilobytes. So, and also the minimum duration charge. How many days must I keep it in? Must I keep it in Glacier, for example? So like 90 days versus 180 days Glacier Deep Archive. So really all these 3 things are my advice for analyzing and continuously right sizing your S3 your S3 footprint. So let me see. Yeah, absolutely. So these are my tips and tricks. S3 storage lens, S3 class analyses, and keeping an eye on the actual varying performance charts of all of our S3 storage classes across all 7, including the outposts, S3 outposts, if that's what you're running. So yeah, great. That's it from the demo here. A quick whirlwind of that. Over to you, Mike.
Yeah. So when we have a few takeaways for you, Rob, if you could post these links in the chat, I'd much appreciate it. We have an ebook to be able to optimize storage costs with Amazon S3. We have an infographic to understand and optimize costs using S3 storage classes. There's a blog that's 10 things that you can do today to reduce AWS costs. If you haven't read this blog post yet, I highly recommend it. It's about a maybe 5-minute read, and it'll just really get your gears turning about things that you can do to save cost if that's something that's on the forefront of your business's needs. We also have a web page that's kind of our landing page for optimizing storage costs using Amazon S3, and that sort of wraps us up here. Yeah, any questions from the chat, Rob?
Sure, we have one question just to follow up from Taylor888. It says, I'm not sure if we fixed it or not, but can you view storage lens dashboards aggregated from multiple accounts in a single central one in an organization?
Yes, you definitely can. So that's actually, thanks for calling that out. That's one of my favorite features about this. I was demonstrating this in a single account, but just having the ability to view buckets from across your AWS organization is a huge help to track down, who's the biggest consumer in your organization. Previously, looking back from the bill or the cost and usage report or whatnot, was a major way to try and find that. But yes, you can aggregate. This can be aggregated across your AWS organization. So definitely yes to this question, and it's one of the best features of Storage Lens. Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you. So in closing, everyone, today we looked at how you can leverage S3 storage tiers to save costs in your storage. If there are any questions that were not answered today, you can post your questions on forums.aws.amazon.com. And please email us any feedback to awssupportsyou@amazon.com. We want to hear from you and let us know what you'd like to see on the show. Thank you for joining us on AWS Supports You, and happy cloud computing.